So how do you approach that? I mean, very concretely, the pricing, because it's also the, the core of a business to make money. I mean, even if we make impact, we also, we can't pay our lunch with impact. We need to have money to pay for it. So for example, with your company, how do you set your prices, for example, and also how does your behavior justify that price? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So firstly, you justify nothing. There is, and then this is the default of many business owner, men or women, is that, okay, I have to defend, I price this product as X amount, X dollar, and then what I give you is this, and then the features and everything, you already start to justify. It must be a value based. So in any business pitches, if you go to ideally it's an inbound, and then this is where I started broadcast my expertise and my visibility, what I want to be known of on LinkedIn or any social media platform where your customer sits.
Yeah.
In that platform, you need to give 100%, 200%, 300% the value of your expertise for free. And this is why I write consistently every day in LinkedIn about topics that matters to me, about about the expertise I have, and I show, I don't tell. So usually when business come to me, it's already inbound. So they already say, oh, okay, I think what Jingjin is doing with the Elevate Group is really interesting. And then they inquire. So now you are already in a much better position. So 99%, I think with maybe 1 or 2 cases, our price were indeed higher than their budget allow. So with that approach, you already get the clients who already, they kind of already choose you. So it's for them to justify why they cannot pay you or why they want to negotiate with you. So because you already established social proof, you already established your expertise. And then now you can kind of like ask whatever you think that's worth your time. Of course, there's a comparison in the market, which I think was important to know. You do not price yourself completely out, but at the same time, you have to value your time, your expertise, and you need to put the price tag on that is worth to present or to work with a client. And that's something you can only figure out. So I think that's the beauty of marketing agency or coaches or speakers. I know speakers ranges from $0 to 10K, and then but 10K, but she's not even 10K, 50K. This region, I think in Asia, is we're still in the learning phase of you don't approach anybody for exposure or impact. You pay them. There is no, for example, this discussion I will never have in the US or in Europe. Clients always come to me say, this is the budget, do you think you can do it? So, but everywhere else, this part of the world, people still think, okay, you can get exposure for, you can pay speaker or services for their exposure. But you as a service agency or anybody that offers a service, the only right way to say is no. Yeah. Because if you do anything for free without getting anything, I mean, we need to differentiate it does not always need to be money, because you can pay, for example, if you have a book author, you can sell your books. If you face a client facing event, and then they have many clients, and then that factually afterwards they will come back to you. Or you sign a different kind of contract. You sign a contract that after, if this, for example, speaking engagement, if you don't pay me now, and you promise, for example, you buy another service of mine, so I will do the speaking engagement for free, but you buy my online courses for 20K. For example, so it does not always need to be the speeches or the service product per se. It can be things. That's why it's so important to have multiple revenue streams that you can offer, you market your product differently.
And I guess also also sometimes a higher price can reflect the value of your work, because if it's underpriced, then you'll be seen as, okay, she does this, but it's not super valuable because it's cheap,
And then that's the thing, but you have to own that price. So whatever you're asked, and then you must be willing to walk away. If I say this service is 10K and the client coming back, so, oh yeah, but we don't have 5. So do you think we can align at 8? And then a lot of people would say, yes, discredit it. So if you were to align on 8, you say, okay, so your budget is 8, I understand. So, but then out of my offer, I'm going to take away something. So you have to design, you cannot sway with what client is doing, because this is the moment where the client recognize, oh, there is, she compromised on price or compromise on services. It is the first sign of lack of integrity.
Yeah.
And then how she sees herself, or how the owner sees herself. And then this is going to be the one-time thing. And next time, and they're going to know. And the world is small. Someone's always going to talk to someone. In the enterprise, I have been angel investing for such a long time. And the best example of why you should ask for more is that sometimes you see a female founder pitch and she asks $1 million. Then you see a male founder pitch. Usually they ask a bigger ticket. They ask for 5 or for 10. And on my observation, the bigger the ask, the more likely they actually can get the money, or more interesting for the institutional investor, for angel investor. For the reason is that if you dare to ask more, they think that you have the confidence, and the business multiple is probably more. So you have to think about it. If you are a VC, your goal is actually to make 10x for your GPs and for your LPs and for limited partners. And now a business owner, often women, because they only really just need $1 million, come to you and say, I need $1 million. Then you think, well, okay, so she asked for $1 million, and then she that's probably 20% of her business she's willing to give away. So the valuation of business 5. Until that 5 becomes 500, that's gonna take forever. So hard no. Then now it comes a guy. I make it out of gender because this is just something that I see so often. And then the guy is doing something in Web3, metaverse, or something in crypto, and saying, have nothing, but say, okay, I asked for 20. Although the business probably not solid, but I asked for 20, so give away for 20%. So the business is probably $100 million. Interesting. Why does he think the business is 100? So let's deep dive. You already get to the first conversation for whatever reason. So I think I'm not saying that you should boast, but generally a higher ticket price, whether you are service or you're pitching, is always more interesting. But you have to own it, of course. No? If you are saying, I'm asking, that I know I'm not, I know I'm asking for a lot, and then it's 10K over. No?
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about money, because it's you need to master your finances to grow your business. So that's the part that you have to learn, when you're creative minds, you really have to, get your hands dirty in this. So how do you handle cash flow? Because it's a big question I talk about with a lot of entrepreneurs, whether it's when you start. So you talked about a Hong Kong government, you can access funding. So that's the thing when you start. But then once you're growing your business, how do you handle that? And when you have to pay for your salary, your team, all of this?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of stages in being an entrepreneur, from the beginning to now in 16 years. It really is about having a goal. And in my case, communicating that goal with your team, so that everyone's on the same page. So when I started doing that with my company, it was, it was like day and night, before decisions were made that didn't align with the company goals. And, you realize it's not about them. It's because you haven't communicated what the goals are. So I would say that we started doing this like pre-COVID, there were definitely ups and downs, but when you're in the down, you really have to figure out how to get yourself up again. And it was, I guess, after the protests in 2019, where, it was a struggle. I've seen many struggles, ups and downs, but that was when we really kind of like looked into, okay, like what I'm doing right now isn't really working. So what can I do to bring us back up. And it was really just like really as an entrepreneur, you have to know how to read your financial reports.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not hard now, because now, we didn't have that before, but now you can just kind of like upload it into AI and get the analysis. Whereas before I didn't have that, but it's just important to kind of like, understand what was last year, what was the year before, what are you aiming for this year?
Yeah.
And communicate that to the team.
Yeah.
And so when I was able to do that, and then you don't have to show all the numbers to your team, but you can just be like, okay, this past year we made 30% of the year before because of what's happened. Okay, so this year we're aiming for matching 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And the way to get there is, we're going to focus on these types of projects rather than, the ones that are fruitful, and then we're going to stop doing the ones that are not fruitful.
Yeah. Prioritize.
Yeah. And when everyone's on the same page, then decisions will be made across the board to improve that.
Okay.
So, like for example, just as an idea, like we're not doing as many. We don't do partial renovations. We do full renovations.
Okay.
Because this is where it can help us get closer to our goal.
Okay.
So, for example, when everyone knows that, then whoever picks up the phone and they will ask, oh, is it a partial renovation or is it a full renovation?
Yes. Yeah.
And things
Okay.
get filtered.
Okay.
So, time is
Okay.
is valuable. So then you can really focus on what will get you to the next level. And then it's important to keep your team updated, because you will not be able to do it alone. If you have a company with several people and you think that, you as the business owner is the one that will bring the numbers up by yourself,
No way.
never. You're only as strong as, the whole team altogether.
But I had another question about money.
Mm-hmm.
As when you started your business, you have a family. Weren't you afraid that, for your kids, because then your family, or I guess your wife works as well, but your family partly relies on your revenue. So for me, I don't have kids. Weren't you afraid? Was this, did it add extra pressure?
I'll say this. In all honesty, I was probably too confident about what I could do when I left.
Okay.
And how quickly I could do it.
Okay.
I do think that in hindsight, part of that was maybe some overconfidence on my part. But the other part that I don't talk about a lot, but I will say this, we probably opened our businesses at perhaps the worst time in my living memory. Because we started business in early 2019 and Hong Kong was going through a terrible time. And that was pre-COVID. And then we rolled straight into COVID.
Yeah.
So yes, money is a concern, and it always will be until I guess you break through some artificial number that you have in your head. But yes, it is a concern. I'm very fortunate that I own my house, and so that I've got that's kind of done and dusted for us.
Yeah.
And we haven't been reckless in the sense that I know we've put enough away for my kids' education.
Yeah.
So those two things are huge things to cross off.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it gave me the confidence to leave corporate, actually, to say, okay, even if everything goes wrong, it's not going to be the end of the world here.
You have a roof.
Yeah, I have a
above your
roof. My
head.
kids will be okay.
Yeah.
We can have less holidays. We can go for less expensive meals. We can drive a cheaper car. We can get rid of the car. We could sell the house and downsize if we really had to.
Yeah.
But I'm not happy at the moment when I was in corporate, if that makes sense. So at that time, I was like, I feel like there's more for me to do, and I'm not going to be able to do it here. And if I'm being honest, I think that I was bringing that home.
Yeah.
Every day.
Course. Yeah.
And it was starting to have an impact on other parts of my life. And it was almost like this huge relief when I left that I can almost, and I don't mean that in a bad way, because I had the most amazing corporate career. It just come to an end. For me, mentally, I needed to do something.
It was
different.
the end of a long cycle.
A long cycle, a great journy.
But it was...
But the last 3 or 4 years, it's been on my mind for probably 3 or 4 years. I've been talking about it just to family.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think I should move on. And they were like, okay, what are you going to do? And then finally I was like...
I don't really know. I don't have a business plan, but let's see.
And honestly, it was an epiphany. I met someone, I was so inspired by them in the Philippines. I've told this story before, and I decided in the Philippines that night that I was going to resign.
Wow.
I flew home on Friday night, told my wife on Saturday, told my parents on Sunday, and resigned on Monday. And it was just, but it'd been building.
Yeah, it was not a instant decision.
But then on the night it felt instant. Like I remember I did not sleep that whole night.
But it was just the outcome of a long process.
Yeah. And I needed something, I guess, to just trigger me. And I was so inspired by someone I met and who I'd known for a few years, and seeing what he'd accomplished. And I'm like, okay, I need to do something different.
Yeah, I get it.